Welcome to Brainwaves, where we dive deep into the minds of the most interesting people in history. Today, we're delving into the remarkable life of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Regarded as one of history's most captivating women, Cleopatra was hailed as a great beauty, a seasoned diplomat, and a skilled military strategist. Her story is deeply intertwined with the turbulent history of her time, as she navigated the complex politics of the Roman Empire and confronted the daunting task of maintaining her own power in the face of constant threats from foreign powers. Join us as we explore the life and legacy of this legendary figure in world history. Cleopatra was born into a Greek dynasty that had ruled Egypt for more than 200 years. She was the third of 6 children born to King Ptolemy XII Auletes and his wife, Cleopatra V Tryphena. Her family was an important part of Alexandrian society, and her upbringing was marked by all the rituals and customs of ancient Egyptian court life. Even at an early age, Cleopatra showed remarkable intelligence and a quick wit, and her education was carefully tailored to prepare her for the demands of political power. Her early life was also marked by the political turmoil that plagued the Ptolemaic dynasty. Her father was overthrown by a rival faction, and the family was forced to flee to Rome. But even in exile, Cleopatra continued to be fascinated by Egyptian culture, and she immersed herself in the study of hieroglyphics, history, and statecraft. Egypt was politically fragile when Cleopatra was born, and the Ptolemaic dynasty was struggling to maintain its hold on power. Egypt had been the breadbasket of Rome for many years, but the Roman Republic was growing more powerful and more demanding. This led to a complicated and shifting geopolitical landscape, with Egyptian rulers constantly seeking to balance their own needs against the demands of their powerful Roman allies. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, was a controversial figure who had seized power through cunning and force, and his reign was marked by persistent unrest and external threats. As a result of this unstable climate, it was critical for Cleopatra to be well-versed in diplomacy and politics from an early age. She would eventually draw on all her political skill to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman-Egyptian relations and to protect her own power and that of her country. Cleopatra's ascension to power was not an easy one, and it was marked by fierce power struggles and political intrigue. After her father's death, Cleopatra's brother, Ptolemy XIII, inherited the throne at the tender age of only 10 years old. Cleopatra was only 18 years old at the time, and she was initially selected to be Ptolemy co-regent. However, she quickly found herself facing opposition from members of the royal court who were unhappy with her policies and leadership style. In order to consolidate her own power, Cleopatra eventually began to rely on the support of foreign powers, including Julius Caesar of Rome. Ptolemy XIII, however, was not willing to give up his claim to the Egyptian throne so easily, and he launched a war against Cleopatra in an attempt to depose her. The conflict lasted for many months, but eventually, with the help of Julius Caesar, Cleopatra emerged victorious. She would go on to rule Egypt with an iron fist, using her intelligence, charm, and political savvy to stay one step ahead of her many enemies at home and abroad. Cleopatra's first meeting with Julius Caesar would mark the beginning of a legendary love affair and one of the most important political alliances in history. The meeting took place in 48 BC, when Cleopatra was just 21 years old and Julius Caesar was already a highly respected and powerful general in the Roman Republic. Legend has it that Cleopatra made quite an entrance. She was smuggled into Caesar's palace in Alexandria wrapped in a carpet. After this dramatic debut, she quickly charmed Caesar with her intelligence, beauty, and wit. The two became lovers and allies, and Caesar was soon lending his military and economic power to Cleopatra's cause. However, their relationship was not without controversy. Caesar was already married to another woman and his affair with Cleopatra was seen as a clear violation of Roman law and tradition. Nonetheless, Cleopatra and Caesar remained devoted to each other, and in the years to come, their bond would be tested again and again by war, betrayal, and tragedy. The Roman-Egyptian alliance between Cleopatra and Julius Caesar was a powerful one that would shape the course of history for decades to come. Caesar provided military and financial support to Egypt, helping Cleopatra to maintain her position of power within her own kingdom. In return, Cleopatra provided Caesar with access to valuable resources and trade routes, as well as a platform from which to launch his own political ambitions. Together, the two leaders embarked on a series of ambitious projects that aimed to create a new world order, free from the constraints of old imperial powers like Greece and Persia. However, their ambitions were cut short when Caesar was assassinated by political enemies in Rome. Cleopatra was left alone to defend her kingdom and her own position of power in a volatile international arena. Nonetheless, her contributions to the Roman-Egyptian alliance would continue to shape the course of world history for centuries to come. After the death of Julius Caesar, Cleopatra would turn her attention to another powerful Roman general, Mark Antony. Antony was an important political and military figure in his own right, and his alliance with Cleopatra would be just as vital to the stability of the Roman Empire as her earlier relationship with Julius Caesar. Cleopatra and Antony would become lovers and allies, working together to try to restore a sense of order and stability to the Mediterranean world. However, their relationship was not without its difficulties. Antony was already married and his affair with Cleopatra was seen by many in Rome as a betrayal. In addition, Antony's military ambitions were often at odds with Cleopatra's desire to maintain Egypt's autonomy and independence. Despite these challenges, Cleopatra and Antony remained devoted to each other, and their alliance had a profound impact on Egyptian history. Together, they built the legendary city of Alexandria and brought new levels of wealth and prosperity to Egypt. However, their relationship would ultimately be threatened by the rise of another Roman leader, Octavian, who would defeat Antony and Cleopatra in a fierce battle on the seas of Greece. Cleopatra was not only a gifted politician and military strategist, but she was also a passionate supporter of the arts and culture in ancient Egypt. During her reign, Egyptian culture experienced a new golden age, marked by a flourishing of artistic and literary production that was made possible in part by Cleopatra's patronage. Cleopatra was deeply interested in the arts and literature of ancient Egypt, and she sought to revive the traditions and techniques of an earlier era. Under her rule, Egyptian artists and writers were encouraged to experiment with new styles and themes, resulting in a vibrant and diverse artistic community that produced some of the most enduring works of Egyptian culture. Her support for the arts would have a profound impact on Egyptian cultural identity and would continue to inspire artists and writers in the centuries to come. Cleopatra was a generous patron of the arts, and she used her wealth and political power to support many prominent artists and intellectuals of her time. She provided financial support to painters, writers, and architects, encouraging them to produce works that would celebrate Egyptian culture and history. She also provided patronage to musicians, dancers, and actors, and helped to organize festivals and other cultural events throughout the empire. Among her most famous artistic patrons were the poets Philopoemen and Apollonius of Rhodes, who both wrote epic poems in honor of Cleopatra and her family. Her patronage was critical to the success of many of these artists and helped to shape their vision of Egyptian culture and history. Cleopatra's support for the arts would have a lasting impact on the world of Egyptian culture and would continue to inspire generations of artists and writers in the centuries to come. Cleopatra's patronage of the arts and culture during her reign had a profound impact on the artistic and cultural legacy of ancient Egypt, which would continue to thrive long after her death. Many of the works of literature, art, and architecture that she supported and encouraged during her reign are now considered masterpieces of Egyptian culture and have had a lasting impact on world culture. Her legacy can be seen in the many myths and legends that have grown up around her, as well as in the many works of art and literature that have been inspired by her story. Her influence can be seen in everything from the films of Hollywood to the fashion of contemporary designers. Though Cleopatra died more than 2,000 years ago, her impact on the world of art and culture continues to be felt and celebrated to this day. The end of Cleopatra's reign was marked by a series of political and personal challenges that would ultimately prove too great for her to overcome. Her relationship with Mark Antony, once a source of strength and support, had become strained due to his growing ambitions and his increasing enmity with the new Roman leader, Octavian. Antony's defeat at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC effectively ended his alliance with Cleopatra and left her vulnerable to attack by Octavian. In the years that followed, Cleopatra was forced to make a series of difficult political decisions, many of which would ultimately prove to be her undoing. She was accused of conspiring against Rome and was forced to flee to Alexandria, where she made a final stand against Octavian's armies. Despite her best efforts, however, she was ultimately defeated and forced to make a desperate decision: to take her own life rather than be paraded through Rome as a captive. Her death marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in world history. The fall of Alexandria was a bloody and violent scene that sealed the fate of Cleopatra and her empire. After a period of fighting, during which Cleopatra tried to negotiate a peace deal with Octavian, it became clear that she would never be able to regain her former status as Queen of Egypt. In a final act of defiance and desperation, Cleopatra decided to end her own life. The details of her death are not entirely clear, but most accounts suggest that she died by allowing herself to be bitten by a venomous snake, possibly an asp. In doing so, she chose to go out on her own terms rather than be humiliated by her Roman captors. Her death marked the end of a brilliant and tumultuous reign, and it sent shockwaves throughout the ancient world. Despite her downfall, however, Cleopatra's legacy continued to endure long after her death, and her story would continue to inspire artists, writers and thinkers for centuries to come. The death of Cleopatra marked the end of an era and a turning point in the fate of ancient Egypt. Her downfall and the Roman conquest of Egypt would have profound and lasting implications for the region and for world history. The annexation of Egypt by Rome brought about dramatic changes to the art, culture, and political landscape of the region. Many of the artistic and literary traditions that Cleopatra had supported and encouraged during her reign were now suppressed or forgotten. The loss of Egyptian independence and the prestige of the Ptolemaic dynasty would have a profound impact on the national psyche and would resonate throughout the country for centuries to come. Despite these challenges, however, the legacy of Cleopatra's reign would continue to inspire future generations of Egyptians and would serve as a testament to the political and cultural power of one of the most remarkable women in world history. Her story would continue to be told and retold, inspiring generations of artists, writers and thinkers with its themes of courage, passion, and political survival against all odds. Cleopatra's life and reign had a profound impact on the history and politics of ancient Egypt and the Mediterranean world at large. Her political savvy and diplomatic skill made her a powerful ally and feared enemy, and her alliances with powerful Roman generals helped to shape the course of world events for decades to come. Her legacy can be seen in the enduring myths and legends that have grown up around her, as well as in the many works of literature, art, and film that have been inspired by her story. Although much of the historical record has been lost or distorted over the centuries, it is clear that Cleopatra was a towering figure in the ancient world, a true queen who was feared and respected by her allies and enemies alike. Cleopatra's story has been translated and retold in countless works of literature, film, and popular culture, each one offering a new interpretation of her life and reign. From William Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra to the blockbuster film starring Elizabeth Taylor, Cleopatra has been the subject of numerous artistic works that aim to capture the enduring fascination and appeal of this iconic figure. In many of these depictions, she is portrayed as a seductive and powerful woman, using her beauty and wits to control the men around her. While some of these portrayals may be inaccurate or based on exaggeration, they serve to illustrate the profound impact that Cleopatra has had on our cultural imagination, and the enduring relevance of her story to our modern world. Cleopatra's legacy continues to endure in the modern world, long after her death over 2,000 years ago. Her story serves as an inspiration to women everywhere, as well as to those who believe in the enduring power of political and cultural leadership. The mystique and allure of Cleopatra's story has continued to fascinate artists and writers, and her image has been used to sell everything from perfume to candy bars. Her influence can be seen in the works of contemporary film directors, writers, and artists who continue to draw inspiration from her story, as well as in the popular imagination of people around the world. While much of her story has been lost to the sands of time, the legacy of her reign endures, as a testament to the remarkable achievements of a woman who made her mark on history in a time when women were typically barred from positions of such power and influence. And that's all for today's Brainwaves video on Cleopatra. We hope that this journey into the life and times of this remarkable queen has been as fascinating and illuminating for you as it has been for us. Cleopatra remains an enduring symbol of ancient Egyptian culture, and her life story continues to inspire artists, writers, and historians to this day. Her unique blend of beauty, intelligence, and skill continues to captivate the imagination of people worldwide, even thousands of years after her death. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on Brainwaves.